Hey folks, Tim Miller here. I hope and pray you're well. Lots going on in our country, and I just want to start with a little bit of an intel update. Many of you were very gracious and responded to the intelligence video that I did. I just want to provide a little bit more context based on some of the recent reporting. Let me just cut to the chase. The reporting is extremely plentiful now that an attack is pending. And I think Sarah Adams and others, they're doing great work. The danger that you always have to worry about is if, they project an attack and then it doesn't happen, then people become complacent. And after a while, they can begin to disregard the message. Let me say this. I don't think in my recent experience, I've seen more of a threat environment than we see now. Why? Well, I do talk to folks in obviously the intelligence community, and they assure me that whatever they want to call it, the chatter is there. They are concerned. But at the end of the day, folks, if they have specific information, they'll stop the attack. If they don't, the warnings are designed to make us pay attention and prepare. And that fits right in line with what I'm trying to do on this channel, which is to be a watchman on the wall. And I have some incredibly growing and grave concerns about what we are seeing across our country now in terms of the escalation of violence. But also when you look at the perfect storm, you look at, and we'll get into some of this, but you look mostly at the tolerance for violence that we're seeing. And I was a police officer in Fairfax County, Virginia. This is near and dear to my heart. I just can't believe what I'm hearing is going on in Virginia. Take a look at this.
And as we count down to the November election, political tensions appear to be rising in Virginia. We have learned that violent threats are being made against at least 3 Republicans who are either in office or on the ballot. Delegate Jerry Higgins' office says that he's received death threats in a text. A Loudoun County man is charged in that case. A spokesperson for Republican Lieutenant Governor candidate John Reed also confirms to WSA9 that threats have been made against Reed and Delegate Kim Taylor as well. Now, we're waiting to see if charges have been filed in either of those cases.
Folks, the concern that we have with this rhetoric, this constant rhetoric of violence, we learned in the Secret Service that if a person begins to say things directed at one of our protectees, we take it serious. You know why? Because people will, not always, but sometimes they'll communicate exactly what they intend on doing down the line. So as we see more of the violent rhetoric, and this directed at political leaders because they don't agree with what you think government should be doing, folks, let me tell you, listen, if we lose that ability to have dialogue in the U.S., our freedoms are gone. We will never be able to recover if violence is acceptable on one side. And unfortunately, we're seeing it become worse and worse, more tolerated. And I really couldn't believe this one. And I'm sure if you haven't heard it, you need to pay attention to this one.
Jay Jones is running to become Virginia Attorney General, taking on incumbent Jason Miyares. But he's facing controversy over alleged text messages he sent to Republican House Delegate Kerry Coyner in 2022. Those texts allegedly show Jones joking about shooting former House Speaker Todd Gilbert and even fantasizing about Gilbert's children dying in their mother's arms. Jones apologized, saying when he saw those words it made him sick to his stomach. He says he's embarrassed and ashamed for what he said. Still, his apology hasn't stopped political leaders from speaking out. President Trump, in a post to Truth Social, called Jones' actions, quote, sick and demented, and believes it is grounds for resignation. Incumbent Jason Miyares says, quote, this conduct is disqualifying. Putting politics aside, one has to be coming from a dark place to advocate the murder of a colleague and their family. Republican candidate for Virginia Governor Winsome Earl Sears says the messages reveal a bigger problem within the party.
The calls for hate and violence are coming from the mouths of the Democrat Party's leaders. And Jay Jones is just the most recent, and his wish for violent acts the most clear.
Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger, who is running against Earl Sears, also expressed disapproval. She says she told Jay to take full responsibility for his words and that she condemns violent language in politics. Meanwhile, the Democratic committees of Virginia's 2nd Congressional District say they are backing Jones, saying, quote, "We are lined up 10 toes down," and crediting him for taking accountability.
You're going to support Jones after he publicly or in a tweet expressed a desire to shoot his opponent, political opponent, twice in the head and watch his children die in their mother's arms. Folks, wake up. That rhetoric should cause an outcry unlike anything we've seen. If we allow that kind of rhetoric to go forward, and everybody listening to me should be inundating their congressional representatives and saying he needs to go now. That is sick, demented, and evil. And, you know, to Winsome Sears' point, this seems to be happening a lot from the Democratic Party. I don't even recognize, my parents were Democrats, but they were old school Democrats. I cannot imagine my dad or mom hearing this rhetoric, and they're gone, you know, they're not with us, they're in heaven now, and them not going, what? That's sick. We would never have any part of that. And yet, some of your family members, some of the Democratic Party, they're saying, oh, no, we're going to stay with them anyway. That's sick. It's evil, and you should call it out, because all it's going to do is allow, now this guy wants to be, oh, it's like Twilight Zone. He wants to be the Attorney General. Oh, but we can't criticize him because of, oh, yes, we can. We absolutely can criticize him. Thank God for this forum. Thank God for YouTube. We can get the message out. By the way, get the message out. This kind of sickness has to stop, because what's happening is we're seeing a tidal wave begin to roll up on our shores now because this stuff's not called out. And it seems like every day now, folks, we're seeing people that are simply trying to express their ability to wear a hat or to share their perspective. We're seeing them attacked and beaten on streets, and there's excuses being made. And here's the real concern: the judges and in some cases law enforcement that's supposed to be protecting them is not only negligent, but some could argue they're derelict in their duty. Let's go to this next one. I'm going to try to be calm, okay? Just for those of you who don't know my background, I was a Marine Corps officer out of college, spent 7 years on active duty and another 15 in the reserves doing counterintelligence work. Was a police officer in Fairfax County, Virginia, was a Secret Service agent, went to Homeland Security after 9/11, and then ended up in training. So I have a little bit of experience that I hope will be helpful as we all try to figure out what the heck is going on. But this one, oh boy, man.
And one is for the hit and run. This guy fled from the scene at 37th Place and Kedzie. It all started at I-55 in Kedzie. Then they fled southbound at Kedzie, where that offending vehicle crashed. They ran the federal agent off the road.
Have them hold tight until I give you further direction, please.
If you guys can start heading there as quick as you can, and then just hold tight for instructions with 999.
So the chief of patrol, clear everybody up. We're not responding over there.
Radio check. And again, per the chief of patrol, we have all the units that for 999. Chief of patrol said all units clear out from there. We're not sending anybody over to that location.
A disturbing dispatch call in Chicago where you can.
When I joined the United States Marine Corps, I joined a brotherhood, sisterhood. Marines committed to each other, Marines that would die for each other, Marines that were so committed we wouldn't even leave your body on the battlefield. We were going to go into harm's way, even if you were dead, to make sure you knew we were there for you. When I went into law enforcement, it was that same spirit of camaraderie and brotherhood, commitment, honor, integrity. Now, I want you to think about, you have federal agents, regardless of how you feel about the immigration issue, they're out there doing what they're constitutionally directed to do, which is to enforce the border requirements of our nation. We know that a borderless nation is a hot mess, and we're experiencing some of that because of the previous administration's dereliction. So now you have agents that are physically being attacked, rammed off the road. Folks are armed. They're now surrounded on a Chicago street. They're calling for help. And what happens? The cowards in leadership for the Chicago Police Department, according to the chief of patrol, no units are responding. Let me say this. I'm going to try not to get excited. I have fought for my life listening to sirens coming, knowing that I wanted to go home. I wanted to go home to my wife and kids, and you're fighting and you're realizing, man, this is not good. But you knew the cavalry was coming. What happened in Chicago, and I want every one of you to listen, if you let that happen without a public outcry, now, then you're going to get what you get when you need help. If there's ever a time to stand and support our law enforcement, it's now. And folks, you've heard me say this before. I'm not suggesting law enforcement officers are perfect. They absolutely need to be held accountable. But let me tell you, if the people that they serve and are willing to die for, if you don't stand with them, then bad things are coming ahead, and you're not going to like it. Because if we don't stand with them, good men and women are going to go, I'm not doing this. It's just not worth it. Most police officers are driven by an idea that they're serving others and making a difference. They're fighting the bad guy or girl. They're out there making a difference, keeping us safe. But when you turn your back on them, not good. When a police department in its entirety turns its back on them, we're in dangerous territory. And let me just say this about the Chicago Police Department. I know a guy, good friend of mine is on the Chicago Police Department. He's beyond outraged. As a matter of fact, he said, he was not there for any of that. And he said, I don't know that I would have disregarded the call away. I think I would have kept going until I saw. And ultimately, the politicians that claim to be police officers in Chicago, they've got to decide, do you even have a conscience? Do you stand with your brothers and sisters? Let me tell you, if I was a Chicago cop and I watched them throw other law enforcement folks under a bus and cowered their way out politically, I would be very nervous about being under their leadership, because it should, for every police officer, it should cause us all to go, wait a minute, this is sick beyond sick. It's a new low. And, oh, by the way, if we, the American people, don't stand and start supporting law enforcement, it's not going in a good direction. And let me just say this, because I know I get the comments and like, well, what about immigration? Are you saying, that the immigration policies, what they're doing is right? Look, that's not my role. And let me tell you what is my role is to tell you the truth. And here's the truth. We live in a republic in the U.S. that's comprised of laws. Now, I was very blessed to be raised in the U.S. I never take it lightly. I've been all over the world on every continent, and I've seen how blessed we are. With that said, the laws of the land are that immigration happens in an orderly fashion, which I 1,000% agree with. With that said, we've let a lot of folks in. Many have been here 20 years. Should there be a review case by case? Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I think most people think it's reasonable. But when you let Tren de Agua come in, when you let terrorists walk across the border, when you let cartels that are feeding fentanyl to our kids, 100,000 of our kids die every year, when you look at cartels that are trafficking little kids and trafficking women, this is pit of hell evil. Quit making a justification for letting these people come into the country. They should never be here, and anybody that says they should be forced to invite them into their homes. Okay, you think that we should let child molesters in? Good. Put them around your kids and grandkids. I'm sorry, I'm a little heated, but here's the bottom line, folks. When police turn their back on police, when the military begins to not respond to the military, we're in trouble. I'm sounding the alarm. We're in trouble. And America better wake up. We better say, that's not going to happen. And we'll get to the, how we do that. But this is the thing that really tripped me this week. And thank you for your patience with me. I can't believe that we're seeing it.
That cartels, gangs, and terror groups have put bounties on the heads of federal immigration agents.
Plans to ambush them and to kill them. We have specific officers and agents that have bounties that have been put out on their heads. It's been $2,000 to kidnap them, $10,000 to kill them. They've released their pictures, and it's an extremely dangerous situation and unprecedented.
Noam also saying the groups are targeting agents that are being, quote, extremely effective.
So just to bring this home, our agents, U.S. agents, are being targeted for assassination, them and their families, in the U.S., and an entire party supports it, i.e. the Democratic Party. Think about it. We're in trouble, folks. If we don't care that our ICE agents and their families are being targeted, if we don't stand up, if we don't have an outcry, it's not going to go well. It's not going to go well. Let me pause here for a second, because folks go, well, Tim, you talk about it, but what do we do? And I just want to remind us that the last couple of videos, I really feel like this is helpful for us with the UP. Understand and prepare. Wake up. You need to understand and wake up to the ideology of evil. And that's what it is. It's not left, right. It's the ideology of good and evil that is making its way somehow into normal conversations where even an attorney general candidate can talk about executing his political opponent, watching his kids see their parents murdered, and that's okay. We're still going to support him. Really? Okay. Well, that tells you how sick things are becoming with the Democratic Party. So with that said, we talk about wake up, get involved. Now, let me say this. I live in security, and I really have to guard my mind, because if all you do is watch this stuff all the time, it'll eat you up. But stay committed to paying attention and getting updates on what's really happening. There's some really good folks out here that communicate, pretty fairly the truth, I think. And but listen, but wake up. And then you think about with that violence is going to come, that violent rhetoric is going to come violence. And that means it's going to affect you. And so for the first time, really in my lifetime, your personal safety and security is hugely important. You have to begin to do things that allow you to stay safe. Meaning, when you're out with your family, you have a plan. You understand what you're going to do, God forbid, if something bad happens. But I like Grady Judd. He says it this way as well.
But we have received information in social media that some of the criminals were going to take their criminal conduct into the neighborhoods. I would tell them, if you value your life, you probably shouldn't do that in Polk County, because the people of Polk County like guns. They have guns. I encourage them to own guns. and they're going to be in their homes tonight with their guns loaded. And if you try to break into their homes to steal, to set fires, I'm highly recommending they blow you back out of the house with their guns.
Pretty straightforward. Let me give you Tim's interpretation. We all have a right to defend ourselves and the things that matter to us, i.e. our family. Now, in every state, there are specific laws for how you can defend yourself, but in every state, the right to self-defense is clear. What I encourage everyone to do, read the state law line by line, read case law, and because in some states, you have a duty to retreat. Just by living in the state, you have to do everything you can to get away so you don't have to take action. In other states like Florida, which is where Grady Judd is the sheriff, you have the right to defend yourself. You can literally, based on facts in front of you, you can take deadly force actions. But with that said, those are not things that you want to figure out in the middle of. You want to get to the next thing, which is train up. So we wake up and we train up. I think I've shared with some of my folks in the past, my buddy Matt Pasqualini does an online training for older folks, how to use basic tools that they may have, canes and sticks and other things to defend themselves. Hey, let me just be clear. There are no victims listening to me. You're not a victim. You are a difference maker if you wake up and train up. Well, what kind of training, Tim? Well, I encourage everybody, now's the time. Get a Stop the Bleed training course. Many local fire departments teach it. It's how to use tourniquets, how to stop wounds, or how to pack wounds, those kinds of things. Get CPR training. If you can, get advanced medical training. Go get your paramedics license, because if you're retired, you may have some resources. You may just be in the middle of a tragic event, helping save lives. We hosted on our channel. I'd invite you to go back and look at it. Jeff Rice's account, being in the middle of the Las Vegas shooting and how he had to make split-second decisions just like this, both tactically and medically. The biggest thing, folks, we've got to be alert and aware. As we look at the terrorist threat, it is incredibly important that we're paying attention. We're looking and asking ourselves questions like, is that normal? And if it's not, trust your judgment. Look at it. If you feel like reporting it is in line, do it. But we have to begin to prepare our own security plan all the time, wherever we go. The second thing is a home security plan. If you have cheap doors that can easily be kicked in, you need to look at reinforcing that. There are some tools that you basically can, bars you can put on the doors that go from the ground up. Other areas, look at your windows, motion lights, those kinds of things. But here's the point. Now's the time to prepare. Also ask yourself, what would I do if, we saw the Secret Service stop a pretty significant case involving the SIMS cards a week and a half ago and the servers. That could have shut down communications networks, folks. And imagine, what would you do if you couldn't call anybody for help? If your cell phones, your landlines, they were non-operational. How do you do that? And that leads to connect with your neighbors, folks. We all need each other now. In the old days, we used to be a part of a big neighborhood family. That's not so much anymore, but make it an opportunity to go talk to them. And if they're on the other side in terms of politics, don't go there. Just say, hey, I want to help you. You can help us, because together we're stronger. That's what used to happen in America before all this communist left stuff started infiltrating our schools and our kids, and boy, does that break my heart. Also, think about your daily travel. When you're going places, pay attention to the news. That goes back to being aware. Don't go into trouble spots. Don't go into areas that you know are already problematic. It's time for us to rethink public events as well, because I think it can make a huge difference. But then we think about, what do we do in terms, so we wake up, we train up, and then we stand up. Folks, everybody has to stand up now. You have to begin to have a clear voice to stop all of the craziness that's going on. Well, what are you talking about, Tim? Well, number one, you need to be a part of school boards. You need to maybe run for the school board. If you are, maybe recently retired or even older, and you're like, you know what, I could do a better job, then get in it. Get in any type of leadership that you can go and exercise and influence for good, do it. Also, make sure that you're holding your elected leaders accountable. Everybody in the Chicago area should have just absolutely gone crazy over the Chicago police not responding to ICE agents in an emergency call for help. Unbelievable. And by the way, I would argue that Pritzker and Brandon Johnson both should be arrested for dereliction of duty because they, like me, they swore an oath to the Constitution, which doesn't mean that they can pick laws that they don't like, fail to enforce them, and declare those very laws illegal. So, folks, until we begin to really stand up in our country, unfortunately, we've got a hard road ahead, but I think we're mobilizing. I get that sense that people are mobile. They're realizing how quickly things are going downhill. And, then the other thing is, if you have an opportunity in a civilized way to have a discourse about why you may not agree with border policy, or why, you don't agree with a defund the police movement. Now's the time to start standing up, because if you think about it, the left is aggressive and violent in terms of forcing their agenda down our throats. We can't allow that to happen if we love our country. Let me leave you with this. My dad was a World War II vet, and he fought in the South Pacific against the Japanese, and then was part of occupied Italy, where he provided medical care to an entire nation that was devastated by the same kind of evil that we're hearing from the left. Violence shoved down the Italian people's throats, tyranny, and it didn't go well. So one of the things that my father reminded me, and I would remind you, freedom isn't free. Freedom is given to those willing to stand and fight for it. I hope and pray that this kind of information is helpful to you. I would love your input. Please tell me where you're coming to me from. And also, I'm thinking about doing lives. Would love your input on that. What would be a good time to do that? But anyway, I hope this is helpful. I hope you stay safe out there. God bless you. We'll see you next time.